Jesus didn't have a problem with people that's in the streets. He had a problem with religious people.
How can I help anybody when I was not even able to help my own son?
I would never do that. I would never do that. And I became that in a matter of minutes when they took my pain pills away.
And I said, I'm not where I want to be, but thank God I'm not what I used to be.
This is Faith in Your Recovery. I am Randy Davis. Welcome to the battle. Again, we thank you for joining with us. This is episode near 170. We've been at this a while, and our guest today was on episode 115 of Faith in Your Recovery, Faust Ruggiero. I'll introduce you to him here in a moment and let him begin and tell his story. But he's got book. Faust, is it book number 4 that you've done that we're going to be talking about?
It's actually book number 5, Randy.
Okay. Thanks for that correction. We want to get that right. And we want to make sure you get the opportunity after telling them what it's about, how to get their hands on it. So make sure you work that in if I fail to ask, okay? Because we know it's going to be one that's going to have a lot of interest with it. As I understand, it's the Fix Your Addiction Handbook, correct?
Correct.
All right. So, Faust, let's begin. Tell the folks a little about yourself, your personal story, however you want to share that. And they can go back, pick up a lot of details on episode 115, but we'll give them a brief update.
You know, I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been a psychologist for almost 40 years now. And, you know, I've been in all the clinics and the hospitals and private practice, and got to the point where, you know, what I was doing, I'm happy with. It was working with people. So I began putting it in text about 5 years ago. So doing about a book a year, it seems. And the Fix Your Addiction Handbook we just published it last week, and it's out, and people are jumping on it, which is nice to hear. It's you know, a good faith-based book. Everything's 12 steps, so we do a lot of higher power work with it, and just trying to get people through all the various types of addiction. It's not just a drug and alcohol. It's about 17 different addictions we cover in the book. So, you know,
I'm sure we'll get into it, but what is the level of commonality between addictions when it comes to recovery?
You know, you start with the way the addictions are. Everyone thinks that they're different. They show different. It's sort of like, you know, when you buy your car, it may have the great body and all the amenities and all the accessories, but it sits on the same chassis most of them sit on. Well, that's the way addictions are. You know, they run through the nervous system and the brain. They stimulate the brain. They increase neurotransmitter production. They adrenaline production. They produce the addiction that way. So regardless of what the addiction is, that chassis is the same. So when we're treating addiction, we're going to make some changes. You know, we're going to treat a little bit different if it's a gambling addiction, say, versus if it's an alcohol addiction. But basically, recovery is going to treat that addictive personality, that interplay between the brain and the body, and try to get us to the point that we're now feeling, you know, a little bit normal, a little more in control of ourselves.
You've just helped put a stamp of approval on my belief and my understanding. There are nuances, there are differences, but the approach is very similar as far as helping someone to that level of recovery thereafter.
Yeah. It is.
Okay, so tell us the titles of your other 4 books, and then we'll get into book 5.
We started back in 2019. I wrote the Fix Yourself Handbook. That's kind of our flagship book. That covers 36 different problems. I keep my chapters, and all the books have the exact same design. So readers who have read one can go to the next one and say, okay, I'm familiar with how this is going to work. So I present my chapters short, 6, 7, 8 pages. You know, we cover, you know, in a condensed form, all the information I need to know about the problem. And then I get into the action steps. You know, based on this problem, do this. So we started with the Fix Yourself Handbook. The pandemic came along. I saw anxiety skyrocketing. We went to the Fix Yourself Anxiety Handbook next. Depression followed. That they go hand in hand. So we followed the Fix Your Depression Handbook. And then beginning of last year, I published the Fix Your Anger Handbook, trying to get people through what we've seen in this country quite a bit, particularly through this election. We've seen it. We see how it manifests. And now it's the Fix Your Addiction Handbook.
My first thought, and help me understand this, I hear or see that title, Fix Your Addiction Handbook. It sounds like a step process, and I don't mean the 12 step, but steps to recovery, and it almost seems too simple. Help me with that.
First of all, it should be simple. Recovery is not some complicated program. In the book, I have 17 kinds of addictions, as I said, and then I explain what to do with each one of them. But the last 12 chapters are all about how it's the blueprint. Okay, this is what we do. This is how we treat the way addiction occurs. What it's like when you're in the grasp of the addiction, and your recovery plan. And we do work the 12 steps into that. I don't have them listed per se, but we talk about a higher power. We talk about not switching addictions. We talk about family. A lot of family issues and collateral damage from the addictions. So we go through those 12 chapters and give people that blueprint that says, okay, I'm starting my recovery program here. This is what it needs to look like. And this is what I have to do if I'm going to be successful with this.
So you talk about the peripheral damage for the family there.
Absolutely.
Is there a number that you feel comfortable using, that when someone in addiction is at the height of their struggle and all the issues that go with that, how many family members that's affecting?
Well, and that's the key. The way that I set the chapters up, Andy, I started with some basic statistics. Then I went into some information about the particular addiction. Then I went into the progression. Okay, this is how it starts from use and goes through abuse and addiction. Beyond that, I went into the grasp. What happens to a person while they're in the grasp of the addiction? And then right beyond, following that is a part of the chapter I call collateral damage, and that's the family part. This is what you're doing to everyone. This is what the family is experiencing. So when we talk about treatment, we're talking about whole family treatment. We're talking about treating the addict and all those people that are close to them, loved ones and friends and other family members. We're talking about everyone. If you don't treat addiction, very holistic fashion, where you're getting everyone involved, you really reduce the possibility that it's going to be successful.
How many of those family members recognize their need for recovery?
That's a tough one. Some of them do. And they'll be part of the plan. Others will say, well, this is not my problem. He or she has done this for so long. Look at all the damage that's happened. I'm very angry. That person needs to go and get themselves straightened out. But as I tell people, it's hard to know whether you're just experiencing the damage or you became part of that toxic kind of way of living. You have to survive in it. So your mind begins to develop strategies so that you can deal with the addiction. So, you actually become a little bit sick yourself.
So you didn't have to necessarily pick up a drug or get addicted to a drug, but you've got your own issues due to the toxicity of everything else that's happened that has been such a real and true part of your life. Yes?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the bottom line is, it's just that, like that old thing we used to say, if you hang around with friends who are toxic, you can become toxic. You take on some of those traits. If you're living with someone or you're involved with them, for a reasonably significant amount of time, you're going to have to either learn how to survive it, and you're going to do some things differently, or you're going to become part of it. Some of the people will understand it and rise above it and go get help before the addict does. We've got this going on in our house. I'm feeling the strain. I'm seeing that I'm doing things different. I'm thinking differently. I don't feel good. I want to get some help. Other people, need to get the addict there first, and then maybe rehab centers or counselors or other doctors pull them in. When I get an addict in my practice, I'll say, well, it's family members too. I want to see your spouse. First of all, I want to get the full story because addicts don't typically tell the full story. It's just the way the addiction works. So I get all the facts, and then I assess how much damage is being done to the family because the addict has taken center stage throughout their addiction. And then what happens when they get into treatment? They take center stage in treatment. We need to share that stage. Otherwise, people really feel left behind. And if there's some damage that has occurred to family members, we want to go get that.
So, Faust, what makes this book, this approach, this handbook unique among others of the same genre?
Yeah, people ask that question, and it's funny. Other people have answered. The readers have answered it. They said it's the way it's presented, straightforward. Here's the information, and you need to do these things. I write my books, Randy, like I do a counseling session. If you come into counseling, we're going to go through the information. I'm going to make sure you understand everything we're talking about, and then when you leave, I'm going to say, do this, and we'll look at that. If I don't say that, you leave there with a lot of information, but I didn't tell you anything to do with it. And that's what a lot of self-help books do. Unfortunately, they're great writers. They put together great information, but they don't get to the point at the end of their chapters and say, okay, I gave you this. You need to start doing these things. Here's how you start them. Here's how you do them. Here's how you assess them.
So let's say I get the book, I diligently read it and follow suggestions and everything that's there. But I'm not doing any kind of counseling. Where is that going to put me? Where's that going to leave me?
Yeah, the book is not, and I make that clear, even in the introduction of all my books, it's not designed to be the sole thing that gets you somewhere. It's a great addition to counseling. For some people who have a lighter version of the problem, so to speak, it might work for you, or if you're a person that just says, I just want to better myself, and that's great. But when you get into full-blown addictions, no, you need to have a counselor. You need to get a doctor in the picture, an addiction specialist. You should have support people. You put together a network, and that's another thing I preach in all my books. Have a support network. Don't do this yourself. People keep their addiction. That's where they get off track. They keep it secret. They keep parts of it secret. Open up. You need to get out there, have someone in your life that is listening to what you're saying, knows what to do with it, and you need to be honest with them and open with them.
As a patient, as a client, your honesty goes a long ways in determining your recovery level, speed of recovery, etc. Yes?
Oh, absolutely. The more I know about you, the better I can treat this. So, we do all that, the historical data gathering. We go back and get family information, any treatments, anything that's going on. And I don't just keep it to the problem you come in with, whether it's marriage or addiction or family or whatever it is. There are a lot of contributing factors. You may have been, I have a fella coming in who was sober he started drinking in his 50s when his father died. But the father was abusive and the father drank, but the fella never did that. But when his father died, it triggered him. And he began to drink and didn't make the connection. So, sometimes it's just about, well, I drank a lot. I have an addictive personality, and that's what started it. Sometimes there's a whole lot of stuff from a person's past. And if that's the case, we definitely want to go get that.
Where can this handbook take me?
No doubt about this. If you have a problem and you're saying, I'm not sure what to do, and you read my book, what you're going to do, if you got the message, is you're going to go get help. You're not going to just the pages of the book told me what to do. Look at it this way. AA has a whole program 12 steps. They also have a big book. Well, you're going to get the big book, just read it and not go to meetings? Probably not, if you're smart. So if you're reading my book, what you're going to get from it, and I put it in every chapter, is get help. Be willing to make the calls. And you're going to deal with your body. Get your doctor, get your family physician involved, so think that there's been no damage. Have a psychologist if you need one, or a counselor. Make sure they're addiction specialists. If you need AA or NA or any of the other support programs, and we give numbers for all of them, go get help. This is a great first step for you to take. Or if you're in the program already, it's a great support, an additional support, but it is not by any means an all-in-one cure. By no means. Wouldn't want to preach that.
We're not there yet, are we? And may never be.
We're not going to ever get to a point where a book tells you what to do. You do it and you're going to be great. We need other people. We need to connect with other people. We need to understand how we move from conflicted and confused and angry, and get ourselves to the point that we come through it. We feel good about ourselves. We know what unconditional love is, and all those good things that make us happy people.
So you've already touched on the answer to this next question, but what's the proper way to read and digest the information and the helps within the covers of the book?
In the introduction, when I wrote the first book and I saw how I wrote it, I said, I need to tell people how to do this. So the introduction explains it, but right at the second part of the introduction says how to read this book. And what I tell people is, it's written in chapters. Don't try to sit down and say, wow, I read this thing in the last couple of days and I'm really feeling good. Because if you're saying that, you didn't. You didn't read it, or you didn't understand it all. This is short. These are short chapters packed with information and action steps. Read the information, be able to do the action steps, then move on. It's not a fix yourself in 10 easy steps program. It's a life program. So there's no hurry. Get it going. And once you get in it, you're going to realize it won't take you long to say, gee, I need some help with this. I probably should make some calls.
I'm going to guess that's the goal.
That is the goal. The goal is to get people opened up, understand what addiction is, be able to look at it and say, gee, we have that in our family, or I have that. I need to get some help here. The book is telling me some great things. I can really figure a lot of it out, but I know if I really want to dig deep into this, I'm a human being specific to myself. I need to go talk to somebody about me.
Where do you find your most creative writing abilities? Are they from your questions or the answers you've gotten from your questions?
Well, when it comes to writing, I mean, you start with, I love to write. I'm fortunate. I do not get writer's block. I know what my subject matter is. So I only write about what I absolutely have an expertise in. So that's the foundation for it. Then it's life experience. Then it's training. Then it's being with people for so long and working through these problems, so that I put together formats to deal with all these different things. So when it came to addiction, I've been doing this since 1982. I became certified as an addictions counselor in '86. So it's been we're in 40 years. So I had the information. Now it's just you feel good about getting it out there. And as I'm writing the chapters, I'm saying, boy, this is exactly what I want to say. And I know that I'm gonna be able to get it out there, and people are going to understand it. And before I publish, I let people read it and say, let's see what you got out of this. And if they got what I wanted them to get, then we go ahead and we publish. If not, then we have to redo some things.
Do you catch yourself in your own mind going back to your book at times for answers in given situations?
You do. If you write a book like a prescriptive book, these are called, or self-help books, you're putting information there. You should believe it. And there's a kind of I call it kind of a bookend kind of a thing. A lot of my experiences, not that I write about them, but what I learned working through life comes into that book. And then when you write them and then you read it later, you say, yeah, that made sense. And I got honest over there, and I realized put some things into there that helped me. I became a better counselor. I became a better person for writing these books. You know, that's the honesty that should come from what you're doing.
Yeah. Can psychology or counseling ever be satisfied? Is there a target, or is it always a journey?
It's both. You know what? One of the things I preach about is if you're going to do something like this, take on a plan to change your life, to improve your life. If you make it work, if you make it a chore, you're never going to like it, and you just you know, you're going to feel, geez, here I have to go again on this. You should enjoy the process of making you the person you want to be, and if you're willing to do that, yeah, then counseling works. Counseling feels real good. You learn from it, and as you go, it's like a workout plan. You know, you start, and I can't do 5 push-ups. Well, gee, a year down the road, I'm doing 50 push-ups, and I'm working out, and I'm running, and I'm feeling real good. I'm challenging myself now. I want to be better. Counseling's the same way.
We move from the physical to the mental more so, and even the spiritual.
Absolutely.
We've talked
Absolutely.
about it here.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I've said that for years. We are human beings. We are physical. We are intellectual or emotional, and we're spiritual entities. And the more attention we give to all of those and try to get those in balance, the better we feel.
What's book number 6 going to look like?
We're just the research is done for book number 6, and probably in the next month or so, I'll put the outline together. We're going to look into abuse, all different kinds of abuse, starting from the simplest forms, some basic low-grade verbal abuse, right through to the point of human trafficking. We're going to move it right through and do chapters on. I think right now we're at about 14 or 15 different kinds of abuse, and then we'll do 10 or so or 12 chapters on a blueprint to help people remove that from their lives.
To me, what I'm hearing you say with the books that are already out, the upcoming book, the one you just recently got published, it's much bigger than for the recovery world. It's it's for life. It's not just psychological, or it's not just warnings of what can be, but it explains a great deal about humanity.
Well, and that's what it's designed to do. Once we hit so many topics, but even in a book like the Fix Your Addiction Handbook, I'm focusing on addiction, but you've got to focus on the whole person. There's a whole person there. It's not just the person is not just an addict. That person is a special person once they understand how to get to those parts of themselves. So you always treat the person as someone that's special, someone that's should be loved and is capable of loving. And if you keep that in your mind, and then you work the programs I'm putting forth, it really does work. It creates happy people.
One of the quotes that I addressed to you before in interview number 115, I believe it was just about a year ago when that took place, was this: don't just follow the crowd, question everything. The question you ask can start a ripple that can change the world. It can also change your own life, which obviously changes the world. But I can see it starting in the individual's heart, and then spreading from the heart to the arms and outreaching to all others. Address that quote a little bit, please. I love it.
We're all connected. We're in this world. We're all together. If we, here I am doing a book, and it's one piece of millions of books that are out there, and lots of different people doing counseling, but it only takes one person to hear it and they pass it on, and the next person passes it on, and that's how this whole thing goes. And sooner or later, you realize this little thing you did had a huge impact. It was honest, it was straightforward, it was designed to help, it was written with love in my heart, it was the type of thing that designed to help people better themselves. Next thing you know, it becomes a movement. So now, we're 5 books deep and we're going into 6 books. Now, we start to make an impact, and that's what you try to do. It's always about changing the world just enough so the people in it are a bit happier, and maybe can take what you're teaching and turn it into their own program, their own message that they can unleash on the world.
What do you see as the strength of this book, the golden thread?
The the two. One is to absolutely come away with an understanding about addiction, not to keep it, in the hands of denial and fear and secrecy. And the other is to understand that, like any other problem, it is beatable. It's something you can enter recovery in and stay in recovery. If you're willing to do this, your life will change.
Another one of your quotes was, have faith, fear nothing, you can overcome anything. And you're just reiterating that with those last words, not the same words, but the same thought.
Yeah, and people sometimes get a little confused about what faith is, and but once you get to the point that you understand it, and you attach yourself to a power greater than yourself, and you start living through that, what's to fear? And, there's nothing left to fear. Every time something comes in, and it looks like it's something that the world typically becomes afraid of, it comes into your power source, if you will, and that faith will take you right through it, because there's a solution. I mean, of course there is. It also reduces the emotion that we attach to things. We get ourselves so blown out of perspective over small things. When your faith is there, it makes you take a step back, take a step back and say, you know what? I know I'm going to come through this. Let me look at what I need to look at, and then I'll do what I need to do. It's much, much happier, much simpler way to live.
I've always felt like life was a state of just the moment, and how I'm dealing and looking at that moment. Do I have the faith to be able to look to the next moment, or am I struggling so hard that I'm adding to the problem during that moment?
Exactly.
Perspective, regardless of where we're at, if we're talking addiction or we're talking other situations, and even in the area of the realms of the good, not so much even the struggles. But it's all about perspective. I've always said an inch of snow isn't much unless you've got 6 inches on the ground. Then all of a sudden, it just seems much deeper.
Exactly. And I always look at life in that whatever comes at me, I always say, well, yeah, I mean, I don't think there's something I can't do. If life comes at me, well, then I'm just going to deal with it. But that's not ego, or that's not me being cocky. That's me knowing that I can, my gratitude is there, my humility is there, which is always, those things are always precursors for faith. And I know that when it comes in, it's going to come into, to my power source, if you will, my willingness to look at that, to accept it, and to deal with it. And I know that, it's going to come out just fine. There's no point in worrying about it.
To me, that's the confidence of faithfulness.
It is.
And it can just see us through that struggle, whatever it may be or look like. Faust, go ahead and tell the folks how they can get their hands on this or any of the other books.
Best place to find the books, and everything about me, excerpts from the book, so you can actually see whether or not, hey, is this something I think I can read and I'd like to read. All that information is on my website. It's my name, FaustRuggiero.com. And when you get there, there's a contact link. If people want to contact me and ask some questions or whatever, by all means do that. I do get back to people.
Awesome. We want others to have that chance. And as you were saying something there a little bit earlier as we were talking about the book, Yeah, it's the handbook, to fix your addiction. But it's also, I would think, just about a handbook to greater understand addiction. For those outside the experience, not necessarily outside the peripheral issues that go with it, but those who don't get it, here's a chance to get it.
Exactly.
Do you think that just fell into place with that? Was there an intentionality about that, or do they just go together?
It started out with a very careful, concise plan, knowing what I wanted to do. So by design, that's where it was. But as you write, as you begin, as I began to do this, then you start to perfect it just a little bit and say, okay, fine, we'll tweak this. We can make this better. This is a little bit more. We can clear this up a little bit and make our presentation just a little bit more functional for people. And so now we're at a point where when I write these, it just everything just falls into place because the design is there. And again, there's that faith kind of thing. I know before I go into the book, I know it's going to be just where I want it to be. How do I know that? Because that's I don't fear any part of that. I don't get. I attack it like it's something I really love and wanted to do. And when it's done, I'm going to do whatever I have to do to edit it and make it for something that people are going to be able to work with.
That helps to eliminate that writer's block that you had
Sure.
mentioned earlier as well. You have that confidence, the knowledge, all of it put together, and the goal in mind, and you fight till you get there.
Well, you step out of I want to do this in my time, and I'm a person of faith, so I always say it'll all happen in the Lord's time. I relax, I sit back, I do the things I'm going to do, and everything always works out. On the other hand, if I start to say, no, I need to get this done, and I really want to get this thing, then writer's block comes because you're no longer focusing on the plan and your enjoyment of it while you're in it. You're now in a destination that hasn't come yet. So
That makes total sense. What else do you want folks to know about this book or any other of your writings?
yeah, well, I think the best message is that regardless of what you read, make sure that there is a formula in that context to apply it. Knowledge is wonderful. There's that old adage that says knowledge is power, and I never bought into that. Knowledge and the understanding of how to use it appropriately creates power. So by all means, get the knowledge, but also have a plan to turn that knowledge into something that can benefit your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Uh, where where do you see this series going? What will be the moment? Is it going to take God speaking to your heart the way you hear Him
Yeah,
that says we're there for the moment?
yeah. You know what? We'll get to the point that I think I'll have covered the topics. We know abuse is coming next. It's very important, I think, to get that going. Book number 7, which I hope to have out by this time next year, is actually on faith. We're going to do a Fix Your Faith handbook, that's kind of these are all the books that I've been wanting to do. But number 7, that's my give back. That's my gift back to the Lord. Here, you've given me all these. Now I give one back. And it's interesting. You asked that when I was writing the first book, and it was things were going well, and we published it, and the book came to me. You get your author copy, and I said, "Oh, Bob, I'm gonna open my book," and opened it, and didn't feel much. I said the book was written, and at that point I said, "Okay, this is not my book." I write it with the help of the Lord. So I just gave the whole program to him at that point. I said, whatever you want to do, that's how this will go. Doesn't matter. I'm not looking for, the fame or whatever. I'm just looking to do your will, put it out there. And when you do that, all of a sudden, everything gets tranquil. Everything, you relax into it. You're not setting crazy goals. You're not beating yourself up. You're not listening to people you don't have to listen to. It all comes from just the source I needed to come from. So I gave the program away years ago.
When we make Him a priority in anything and in all things, it seems to work together. That's his promise to us among many others. And when we place him first, everything else falls into place. So
Yes.
we're good with that. Anything else you want the people to know about your writings?
And I think the best way to close is I just want everyone to understand that, we talk about faith, we talk about the Lord. The Lord didn't create garbage. All of us are special. All of us are worthy of love and to be loved, to love other people. We get off track. We make mistakes. We do things that that aren't so nice. Okay, that happened. But the next thing we want to do is to understand that we're good people. We're worthy of a recovery. We're worthy of a connection with the Lord, and be willing to start from that with that in your mind. Okay, you know what? I've done some things. I got to fix some things. I got to make some amends, whatever it may be. But I'm worthy. There's no reason why I shouldn't be able to have, be the person I want to be and have those things that I'd love to have. I just have to do all the work for them. That's all.
We're not what we've done.
No.
We were created to be much more, and the encouragement I've always wanted to give is that we do our best to become everything God's created us to be. He didn't create me to be you anymore, and He created you to be me. But I can be the best Randy possible. You can be the best Faust possible.
Yes, we can.
And
I just keep my focus there. I mean, I talk to my Lord all day long. I don't. It's not a pray for this and thank for this. It's all day long. It's just a conversation. Be willing to have that conversation. The person, the God on the other end is listening. You may not get the answer you want. You'll get the answer He thinks you need.
and that's more important. We
Oh,
don't want to admit it at the moment, but that's where any success is.
absolutely,
Whatever success for you is as an individual.
absolutely.
We weren't. It's not in our DNA to be able to do that. So certainly is. Well, listen. Thank you again for your time for this interview. We look forward to this book getting. I'm anxious to get a hold of it. The ones in the future, we'll look forward to those, and I hope we can meet again here. So,
Love to. Always good to spend time with you.
thank you much. God's blessings, and folks, to you, we always want to remind you to stay in the battle. Know that you're worthy of the win, and it can be done. So, as we've said here a couple of times, nothing to fear. Just hold Christ near, and you'll get there. God bless. Take care. Amen.